time to go over some of the finer details.
Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance was released on December 11th, 2011 at Butt-Numb-a-thon.
Oh, yeah, dude.
It's apparently a festival that is held by, Alamo Draft House or one of those like theater chains.
Yeah, they host it, and Harry Knowles from Ain't It Cool News sponsors it. It's like a celebration of his birthday.
Butt-Numb-a-thon is
it just supposed to be like you sit for a long time and watch movies?
24 hours,
like,
yeah.
Oof.
You watch movies for 24 hours?
Well, I was trying to think of a worse way to watch this movie than
this is the movie they put on
and that would
in the
be
middle of
one.
the night so you could just sleep through it.
Okay. That works.
That's the debut.
That's the debut.
The crew's all there and excited.
Yeah. I wonder if it was at the very end and that was like how they sent everybody off after sitting through 24 hours of movies.
Well, if you didn't want to kill yourself before, you will now.
Hopefully they played the original Ghost Rider right before, so you could be set up to be disappointed. Was released wide on February 17th, 2012. So technically it came out in 2011, but it actually came out wide 2012, which was the same year that Avengers came out. So
yeah, like
if
3 months
you
before.
really
2
think
months,
about it. I mean, even so, the original Ghost Rider, we talked about it, was like a year or 2 years before Iron Man came out. And then this one came out the same year as Avengers. So it was like, ugh. Like, you just gave us two terrible movies up against movies that were amazing. I think, first Ghost Rider came out like the year before Dark Knight, or like a couple of months before Dark Knight.
It was 2007, right?
Yeah, I was going to say
like that,
2007.
The year before Dark Knight and Iron Man.
Yeah. So, I mean, you know, when you think about it, like the original Ghost Rider was very similar to the style that comic book movies had been up to that point. And I feel like Dark Knight and Iron Man set the bar so high that like they shut down the entire like comic book side of their productions until Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So,
no, I mean, even by the 2007, we had like the X-Men series and the Spider-Man series. So there'd been good examples of what they can do. It was then Ghost Rider wasn't even as good compared to those. So there were already ways to compare it to what comic book movies were turning into. Mm-hmm. And it did not follow suit.
Spider-Man 3, X-Men 3.
Oh my god, that Spider-Man or X-Men 3 movie was like,
I only
what
saw that
were
when it
you
came out.
thinking?
I rewatched all the Spider-Man trilogies, and Spider-Man 3 is not horrible.
If you can ignore the CGI, it's not horrendous, and
it's
get
just
over that
crowded and
really
messy
horrible
and
dance scene where he turns into.
But if you watch all three of them back to back, it's not really. You know, it's not like a triumphant end to the trilogy, but it's definitely nothing in that third movie is outlandish compared to what the other two movies had. You know, in my opinion,
it's kind of like watching the three Godfather movies in a row. I mean, not to compare those, but like the first two are so good that the third one, like, it's not an absolute dumpster fire like Spirit of Vengeance is, but it's so bad compared to those first two that it's just like, ugh, what were you thinking again? Budget on this was a huge discrepancy again, 57 to 75 million. Where did that extra $18 million go?
European gangsters.
Well, they filmed it in Eastern Europe, just like Lord of War. So
exactly what I was thinking. Maybe it's the conversion rate. They met up with Tommy Wiseau to direct a few scenes. Oh yeah, and then he pisses fire.
That's how they got protection. He used to run gangs in Eastern Europe.
It made 132.6 though, so that's bafflingly this fucking movie made $132 million.
Marvel was on that trajectory, and people probably just thought
they just see Marvel.
This is MCU Ghost Rider.
Yeah, nope,
it was not.
This was directed by the team of Neville Dean and Taylor, who also did the Crank movies, and that's where they got their start. And that's the movie that, like, I I mean, that was the sign for me that Ghost Rider was going to be absolutely terrible. I mean, watch 5 minutes of one of those Crank movies, and it's just like, okay, well, now it makes sense. They actually restrained themselves pretty well for this Ghost Rider movie.
I think they got reined in because you could see moments of Crank in the film, and then it's pulled way the fuck back. Yeah, I think the only way to describe those Crank movies, is it's what I imagine doing LSD is like, just nonsense, just
meth,
harsh colors.
Meth seems closer. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Probably meth.
It's just like, it's like an ADHD fever dream.
Yeah.
Neville Dean Neville Dean is actually married to Alison Lohman. Weirdly enough, from Matchstick Men.
That's funny.
Which is, as we talked about in the Matchstick Men episode, she stepped away from acting to raise a family with the crazy dude from Crank 1 and 2.
Maybe this movie broke her. She saw how horrible it was. She's like, I don't want to be part of that industry because
I watched my husband's film, and now I want to kill myself.
She's like,
he's
God,
like, you should star in this. You should.
The hell happened to Nic
Nicolas
Cage?
And she
I had
saw
a lot of
5 minutes
fun working
dailies.
with him, and now he's doing this.
Yeah,
I'm done.
They also directed Jonah Hex, which I have not watched, but what I've seen was god awful. So
was
bad.
that a TV show?
No, it was a movie with Thanos.
Josh Brolin.
Josh Brolin.
Yeah, Brolin, and I think Megan Fox.
Oh, that's right. Okay, I was trying to remember why I remember just like a lot of buzz around that film, and that's it. Like I never saw it. This is the first time I've heard of it since.
Heard it was
came out.
horrendous, but that was before this movie, and this is the movie that apparently broke up the team because they have not worked together again after this. Though Brian Taylor, the other half of this team, went on to direct Mom and Dad, which is the kind of the first horror movie that Nic Cage did that sort of started to spark that comeback. So. Mm-hmm. We'll see. We'll see once we watch Mom and Dad if it has that Crank.
Maybe they started that redemption arc for Nic Cage.
Maybe.
And his own redemption arc, apparently. See, I don't
maybe.
So they ruined his career and then kind of gave it the nudge back into stardom.
Can you imagine being Nick, being sold out? Hey, this is the guy directing this film. Wait, the Ghost Rider guy.
Oh, God.
Oh, my God, but I need the money.
Really need some money, thank you. This is the only PG-13 movie, though, so maybe that's part of what happened. They had done only R-rated movies up to that point, which I guess Jonah Hex was an R-rated movie. Mm-hmm. So
was it really?
I guess.
Yeah, there's part of that.
I've
I've heard of directors talking about, like, if you have your movie rated R, the studio doesn't care as much, so they give them more freedom to do what they want with it because the studio doesn't. They already expect it's only going to hit a certain threshold at the box office, so they're okay with things being more out there. So maybe that was their problem. Was this is the first time a studio actually reined them in and tried to make them make a product that they could sell.
I watched the behind the scenes, and holy shit, it was a train wreck, dude, from start to finish. Like they didn't even have equipment. Like 2 days before they were supposed to start shooting because the studio had been waffling on doing 2D or 3D, and they needed specific equipment for a 3D shoot, and they decided on 3D. And then by the time they ordered the equipment, there were so many productions happening at the time, like Avengers and all of those films, that they couldn't get the equipment. They couldn't source it from the United States. They couldn't get it from Europe, so they had to go to India to get the equipment. And like, thankfully, I forget who, but one of the like producers had a hookup in India, and he flew over, got the equipment, and flew right back, and they started shooting. So
wow.
And they were like on the phone with people trying to figure out the 3D stuff because they had never shot 3D. They didn't know what the hell they were doing, and it was just a train wreck, dude. This was written by David S. Goyer, who is famous for Some people really hate this guy. Some people really love this guy.
Fucking hate this guy.
He did the Blade trilogy, the Dark Knight, the Christopher Nolan trilogy, Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, Terminator Dark Fate, and is currently working on the Hellraiser reboot.
Oh, my God. Oh, dude, that's going to be awesome.
God.
But I will say, in David S. Goyer's defense, he had written a script before the original Ghost Rider that was supposed to be an R-rated film, and it was just sitting on the shelf. And these guys found it, and they modified it from there. So it was like, yes, it was technically a David Goyer script, but they modified the hell out of it. So, and there's like 3 different writers on the credits, but according to IMDb, it was written exclusively by David S. Goyer. So, yeah,
was he part of the Lost team as well? Did he do?
I'm not sure.
I think it's something else.
You're just looking for shows.
I just like things that I hate. You just want to blame him for.
This was shot by Brandon Trost, who seemed to be the only coherent, competent person in the entire behind the scenes, which makes sense because he went on to shoot This Is the End, the interview, that North Korea, Seth Rogen, James Franco movie. Then he shot the Neighbors movies, and also shot That Awkward Moment, which was the first movie that Tom Gormican did before he did Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent.
Wow.
And then also shot The Disaster Artist, which is,
that's
I mean,
too
if you
funny.
love The Room, you'll love The Disaster Artist.
That's awesome.
And then he did Sonic the Hedgehog 2, and is currently working on that Coyote versus Acme movie, which has potential. It's like him going to court, and he has to be.
It sounds hilarious. It sounds funny.
But it's like a combo live
great.
action. He goes to court to sue Acme. I believe that's the premise because they all everything he did failed.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, edited by Brian Burden, who also did a bunch of David Lynch projects. So yeah, like everything. There's all these overlaps with all of these films. You know, now that we're getting kind of in the weeds deep into these films, you're starting to see like a lot of crossover for people. A lot of David Lynch people have made their way to Nic Cage movies. But he edited Blue Velvet, which is probably my favorite David Lynch movie, and Wild at Heart, the Nic Cage one. Also edited Natural Born Killers for Oliver Stone, and U-Turn also for Oliver Stone, which I just rewatched the other day, and it's so fucked up. What a fucked up movie, but great. Hilarious dark comedy if you're ever in the mood for some really fucked up comedy. U-Turn's great. And Grosse Point Blank, which is my absolute favorite film from Cusack, John Cusack. He is so good in that movie. That movie is such a like kind of lost, forgotten gem. I love that movie so much.
I was gonna say that's a very underrated film. I don't think people have given it a shot. It's
so
one of
good,
my favorite
so good.
Cusack films. Too.
Just a hitman in therapy. It's kind of like Barry before Barry.
Yeah, it's just so ridiculous.
And then attending his high school
reunion
because he has to kill somebody in his hometown, and then he kind of like rediscovers his long lost love and stuff.
Yeah, it's awesome. That's a great film.
Also edited Nixon, the Mothman Prophecies, and then he worked on the new Twin Peaks, so jumped back with David Lynch. And then finally, David Sardi did the music, who he also did Zombieland 1 and 2, 21 Jump Street, not the 22 Jump Street, I guess, Premium Rush, End of Watch, and then he was also an audio engineer for Red Hot Chili Peppers, Slayer, System of a Down, Atari Teenage Riot, the Dandy Warhols, which is a lost, forgotten band that's great, Johnny Cash, Oasis, Nine Inch Nails, Chris Cornell, Band of Horses, and also produced Eat the Elephant by Perfect Circle.
Ugh.
And also,
I guess he can't have all winners in there.
Well, he was an editor before, and then became a producer. And he also produced the new Modest Mouse and Incubus albums. So He's very busy in the music side of things.
Yeah, holy smokes, man.
Yeah. Pretty impressive. I mean, I just wanted to point that out. Like, it's crazy to be, to have that crossover.
Yeah.
Go over and be a huge audio engineer and then jump over and do Zombieland. I don't know.
Yeah.
Ratings, as you would expect, not great. Rotten Tomatoes gave it an 18%. 4 out of 10, which is higher than I thought it was going to be. But that's close to Dying of the Light level of Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, but Dying of the Light was a much better film.
Yeah.
I never thought I'd say that.
4 out of 10 on 116 reviews for Rotten Tomatoes. Audience score is 31%. If you're just walking outside and you talk to a random person, 30% of them are going to love Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance.
When it's 110 degrees outside and you need a cool place to go sit.
Kind of people who wear sweaters while they're in 110 degrees. It's not that hot.
It's not that hot.
Metacritic, 34%. And then IMDb, 4.3 out of 10, which seems high.
That seems really high.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cinema score, though, C+.
That's way too high.
Oh, my God.
I wonder if it was from that butt numathon, like the people
It had to be.
C+, fuck this movie.
Sleep deprivation. That's the best way to promote your movie.
Yeah.